Hi everyone. Buenas noches. Yeah. Nos estamos paseando bien.
Sí.
Things like we're already having a good time. So, good evening. My name is Ivan. I'm the programs coordinator here at Beyond Baroque, and want to welcome you to the Wanda Coleman Theater. Yeah. For those of you who may be a bit unfamiliar with our space, we're a nonprofit literary arts organization founded in 1968. This building used to be the original Venice City Hall building until the late 70s when Beyond Baroque poets and writers, artists moved in and reimagined it as a home for the arts. I'd like to acknowledge our presence on the ancestral and unceded territory of the Tongva peoples as the first peoples of this land. We acknowledge the wrong done to indigenous communities through colonialism and genocidal practices. We are committed to uplifting their stories, cultures, and communities. This month we are celebrating Black History Month. Just next week we are having a poetry reading and arts fest in collaboration with Skew Magazine, who are in their issues are highlighting Black poets and artists. And we are also hosting Jose Hernandez's Diaz book launch, who'll be reading with poets Jimmy Vega, our associate director, Ruja Mohasesi, and L.A. Johnson. Then next month, we'll have a full slate of programs for you all, ranging from readings to workshops and art exhibitions. So you can stay updated in our newsletter or visiting our website. And please consider becoming a Beyond Baroque member if you aren't. Your contributions definitely support the space, our free programming, and it comes with perks from time to time. Memberships include discounts to books, merch, and events if they have a ticket price. We are hosting a poetry film festival during National Poetry Month, and there will be some perks there that you can take advantage of. So if you want to inquire about that, please visit the bookstore, and Genesis can let you know more info about it. And there's other ways to support, of course. Our lovely authors this evening have books, and they're all on the shelves right front and center for you all. So please get them signed, and please buy a copy of all of them if possible. And just want to say thank you to our staff team, directors, Quentin, Jimmy, tech director over in the booth, Eric, Genesis, Simone. Couldn't be possible without you all. So, yeah. Lastly, of course, thank you to our lovely features. Two of them are coming out from Texas, so we don't have them here whenever. So, it's a fortune that they're with us tonight and that we get to hear their poetry. So let's just get started with some poetry. Our first poet of the night is Yañez Alanis, Chicana mestiza activist, educator, poet, and PhD fellow in cultural literacy and language at UT San Antonio. She co-founded Welcome, a poetry declaration to promote language, justice, and equity through poetic translingualism. Her research focuses on Chicana mestiza researcher, positionality, and poetry autoethnography. Yañez has contributed to various journals, anthologies, and works like Matrilineal Poetics, Towards an Understanding of Corporeality and Identity, featured in Latinas in Hollywood, Her Stories. She authored the poetry chapbook Surrogate Eater and was featured in the forthcoming Corazon Collective anthology. Her upcoming chapbook in decolonizing academic writing through translingualism explores academic writing, sensual, surrogate, and consumptive aspects. Please welcome Yañez Alanis. Thank you.
I'm super, super grateful to be here and reading alongside
my poet colleagues and being at this venue in particular. And so I wanted to start off by saying that today marked a really, really special day for me. I, along with some of my university colleagues back from San Antonio, Texas, launched what we call our Wedi Agenda, and we are part of a Wedi collective. And basically, it's about centering sensuality and pleasure in our academic spaces, which can oftentimes be pretty violent. And so it's also a way to connect with our elemental truths and through our erotic strengths. And it was really interesting today going through some of our processes as we moved our participants through the presentation and some of the things that we were asked to meditate on. And one of the first questions that was asked was, how does this eco-erotic language speak to you, and what would you add? And this was a particularly important question for me because when I started my academic journey, I was immediately confronted with the fact that I was being fed a scholarship that didn't connect to me in any way. While very important, to collaborate and meaning make with the scholarship, it wasn't speaking to me. And so I decided to take some of the most important and evident themes of Surrogate Eater, which were consumption, sensuality, and surrogacy, and build a framework to connect my scholarship to the way that I produce knowledge and the way that I share knowledge and with whom I co-construct knowledge. And it's been a really beautiful journey. And then just to add a little bit of prefacing for Surrogate Eater, the foundation of Surrogate Eater speaks to recovery of eating disorder. The overarching themes carry over from colonizing legacies, ways that indigenous bodies were forced to conform to colonization, and the way that transferred in my lineage. And a lot of it was, trying to erase everything about us. My maternal grandmother, who is of African descent, so there was always this fear of, dark skin and moving away from that history of escaped slavery. She's from Nacimiento, Mexico, if anybody knows anything about it. And then my paternal grandmother, who is Lipa, which it's only been until recently that I finally found those missing parts of me that connected me directly to her. And by understanding and learning more about who we are in Texas, I started to understand this narrative of yo no soy India, ni tú eres India, constantly being forced on me. And so unfortunately, a lot of that control became evident in the way that my mother forced me into these practices of eating disorder. And so this is a transformational collection of poetry. This is a celebration. And so while there is some trauma, there's also a lot of celebration, reclaiming voice, reclaiming space, land, from being displaced. And reclamation of sexuality is a really, really, really big one. So I will start with patron saint of moist things. I must be a mermaid. I have no fear of depth and great fear of shallow living. Anais Nin. When I pray for love, I imagine our youth and Anais Nin, her wet verses underneath our tongues, her sex and unguent between our bodies, my tempered knees tender and buckling at your waist, seeking salve and chrism. In my surrender, in my memory, you untie the blue ribbon from around my thigh, your teeth releasing the knot, My openness tastes of fig and tamarind, glistened cadence on the tongue. I don't know you without the warm sun, without summer's rain arced above our bodies, without the milk-like sky anointing us with grace. I long for your witness to my sanctity. I long for your witness to my breast, swollen like a sea of darkness. Thank you. Thank you. Absolutely. So I'll be sharing the title poem, Surrogate Eater. On our days out running, I pace your stride across the asphalt, your hips and thighs thin and lithe. Mine yearns to mirror your body. Yours refuses fat so naturally. The rhythm of our breaths synchronized, we gleam as glaring candles, virgencitas kept as prayers, lit on sills at our mother's windows. Now you sit so close to me. Your thigh touches mine, your skin an offering of comfort, familiar and burning between us. We lift our t-shirts, laugh at skin pulled taut over muscle. I fill myself with water meant to stave off hunger. I love the rimming of your lips around the spoon of mounded ice cream I deny myself to eat. The sweetness of your breath invites my tongue to lap the taste of sugar lingering on yours. Thank you. Incidentally, there's a particular line in the poem. I love the rimming of your lips. So this is becoming a bit of a construct in a conversation that I'm going to be having in a conference that we're headed to in San Francisco in April, and regarding the rimming of academic spaces. So send a little prayer this way that I don't get called into HR. This might be that moment. To be born a son, we build a castle around his seating as he grows. He is taught to keep one foot tilting the pedestal, his palm a foothold for his queen. His birth, the season's harvest, bears no thought for fallen fruit. His sisters bloom into shifting hips and nectar of nourishing sexuality left to redden hot mouth and bleeding in the garden. His biceps and genitals, the celebrated centerpiece, we devour at family feasts. Thank you. So that's to say, these colonial legacies, they don't escape anybody. Definitely not our sons. Running, invasive memory. I know of sin and shame, the obligation of silence in my body, the red ribboning loom of womanhood, proem to my suffering. I am beatified by Mother Mary as I run. Holy, obedient girl of intact hymen, I pray for the licentious lust of Mary Magdalene. I want the hunger of a woman abandoned for fucking, the dishonor of breast and disgrace of thickening clitoris. I want to suspend the red ribboning loom of my womanhood, of sin and my sex. I run miles to reach my bones, my ribs, my altar. Let's share 2 more poems. My body at the table. A stream of hot water, a night for a singe, a smudging of skin. I bite down on the sweet taste of a fire, fingers clutch in pleading supplication. The stream leaves streaks down my stomach, scarlet sashes ribbon down my legs, soothe across the scars on my knees, ancient burial ground of unanswered prayers. I lay across the floor, limbs limp and splayed, my skin soft linen. A rose arches from the center of my body, each lover at the tips of my fingers. I breathe shallow breaths of ache, breasts rise toward God. Sweet contrition, sweet contrition. I rest in the charity of my sin, relief from the pain, pink pills in a cup. My lovers, they reach, each takes from the flesh, my body at the table. And I shall finish with, actually I'm going to finish with my devotion to the cover art and to the cover artist, Paula Lopez. Divine Dahlia for Paula Lopez and for First Mother. She blesses the mouth, draws me into succulence of universe and song. Her parlance of teeth and spirit devours skies. Cosmos and eternal origin seeds and sweetens the tongue. I moan for flowers and stars, for the gardens, moons, and galaxies. The earth embraces my words, rescues language from captivity. The moon compels my throat. I reach and lament, I scream hallelujah. My voice rises as divine Dahlia, grasping moon. I scream hallelujah for the angels and their psalms. I utter joy in the sibilance of shadows, casted on to the language of my tongue. The angels pray hallelujah in my moan. I pray remedy for silence, hallelujah for all things prayed. Divine Dahlia, blessed be the mouth. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Gracias, Jen. Un aplauso, por favor. Yeah. Thank you for opening the reading, being here from Texas. Thank you. Our next poet is based here in Southern California, in Los Angeles, and she's celebrating the launch of her second collection, Maestra. Angelina Sáenz is an award-winning public school teacher and poet whose work focuses on memory, mujeres, and motherhood. She's a UCLA Writing Project Fellow and alumna of the Vona Voices Workshop for Writers of Color and a Macondo Writers Workshop Fellow. Her poetry has appeared in outlets such as Diálogo, Split This Rock, Angel's Flight, Every Other, and the Acentos Review. Her debut book of poetry, Edgecliff, and her second collection, Maestra, are published by FlowerSong Press. Please, round of applause for Angelina Sáenz.
Okay, buenas noches. I'm so happy to be here, and I want to tell you that Maestra is a book about educational trauma. I was a school teacher for 23 years. Something that I think is interesting to me when I think specifically about Latinx children is if we are in schools for 13 years of our life, K through 12, what is the message that each of those brown children is getting in their classroom? Considering that they're spending 180 days a year for 7 hours or more in the care of a school, what is being in that school communicating to them? In my experience, both as a K through 12 student in LA Unified and as a teacher in LA Unified for 23 years, the message is that they don't matter, that they don't know, and that they have nothing to offer, overwhelmingly. So this is a book that's a testimony to what my experience has been. It is broken into 5 sections. The first set of poems are about students, then about teachers, parents, poems about the teacher strike in 2019, what it was like teaching kindergarten during COVID, kindergarten Zoom, and public policy, poems about my family and education, and then general reflections. So the first poem I'm going to read is a conversation between me and my 6-year-old student. Why are you leaning your torso across the desk? Why is your whole body on furniture in my classroom? Are you a creature who crawls on furniture, or a boy at school sitting properly in my class? I am not a creature. So are you a person? A human who knows how to sit down? Señora Sáenz, I am a man. Teachers show up to teach your children even when they have cancer, their children are sick, they have no gas to get to school, they're losing their home, they go home to their dying loved one, their body is aching from their chronic disease. They open their eyes, the world is heavy on their shoulders, and they go to school to teach your children. That's a true story. All of my colleagues had some of those conditions. I think it's interesting that, teachers are the working poor, especially in LA. It's really not a working wage, what we make. And I don't teach anymore, so I teach teachers now, but there is a poem in here that talks about we expect so much for teachers and we give them nothing. So that's a really remarkable expectation, right? Which I think is prevalent in this country. Give me more, give me more, give me more, and I'm not going to give you anything as you give me more. So this one is about parents. I sent a message to a parent yesterday. Good morning. Your child has not returned their book bag with 2 books. Please return it tomorrow. If it is not returned tomorrow, lost, you will have to pay $10 per book, and your child will no longer be able to take books home. Thank you. After I thought about if my mom would have received that message, she probably would have, 1, not read it, 2, told the teacher to go fuck herself, 3, kicked my ass for not having the bag, 4, made a toast with an old English to the asshole teacher and her asshole message. But she would have made no effort to find the bag or pay $10 per book. Sometimes when I write to the parents of my students, I forget where I come from. So the teacher strike, if you all remember, it was for 10 days. And it rained every single day that we were out walking. It was such a metaphor, like I just felt like my bones were saturated. Just in the whole complication of public education and the life of teachers. And there was just a day where I got home, and so this is what the poem is about. And my children, my school-age children, were home alone because they weren't in school. So that's what this is about. Soaking wet from picketing in 10 hours of rain. Would Dolores Huerta have walked into her house with 2 large Little Caesars pizzas for her children, requesting they sort themselves out for the evening after they sorted themselves out for the day? I kick off my muddy boots, peel wet clothes off of my skin, slip into lavender bath, crawl into soft bed at 7 p.m. to sleep until the next morning. Como lo hicieron las madres campesinas. So teaching during COVID was mayhem, and going back, reopening was double mayhem. So this poem is called First Hour Back on Campus Post Shutdown. Fuck you, beer truck and neighbors, for double parking on a school street with your emergency lights on while we're all jamming to get to school. God bless all the families who showed up and didn't get the message. There is no school today. A spot for me in staff parking. Boom, get to the top of the stairs with all my bags and the gate is locked. No one is manning the entrance. I see a colleague pushing her son's stroller across the yard with all of her bags, and I scream, dude, what's happening? She says we have to go through the front today. I'm dressed for my Siberian classroom and walk a 1/4 mile all the way to the front. I'm sweating from the spring-summer sun, and there is a line. Folks can't find their QR code and are sent home. I see a friend in line. Sáenz, I brought you a sandwich. Wait, are we allowed to bring each other food now? Public school madness mandates. I think we're on candid camera. An experiment in compliance and authority. The research question: when will grown-ass educated professionals stand up and say, this is all bullshit. This is not good for children or teachers. The institution is here for our sake. We are not here for the institution's sake, for data's sake. And I cannot comply with your absurdity and inhumanity anymore. The experiment continues, the pile gets higher, the clock is ticking, and we allow the circus to go on. So this section is about all of my family's different experiences with education. We're all Latinos, and nothing has changed with the system. And so we keep having my mother was a high school dropout. She went to Dorsey High, and I'm a high school dropout. And now my sons are doing community service, and they're volunteers at local elementary schools. So this is from my middle school son, who went to volunteer at a school. Allende volunteers to tutor at an elementary school. Mama, I feel so bad for the boy I'm tutoring. He can't get up until he finishes his homework, and he never does his homework. What grade is he in? Kindergarten. What is his homework? Tracing. How many pages? 4. I wouldn't want to be 5 and trace 4 fucking pages of bullshit. I know, Mama. So I do a tracing race with him, and then he finishes and goes to play. That's called saving a brown boy's life, mijo. Kindergarten and first grade teachers tell me their students don't know shit. And I think to myself, how could they? They've had less than 2 years of formal instruction, and often the instruction is in a language they don't know. My own sons grew up with English. They had markers and paper since toddlerhood to scribble, experiment with the alphabet and environmental print. They tossed around board books, memorized emergent readers, spent hours at the local library. When they got into preschool, they were ready to put it all together, and they have been straight A students since. Yet the babies who come into our classrooms who didn't have the opportunities my sons had are immediately assaulted. With our 1-minute timers and ultimatums, with our notes home to tell parents that they are failing, we put their names on charts for everyone to see that they're below benchmark. The children who are learning English in your English-only class don't even know what the fuck you're saying, for whatever that's worth. Small children whose first literacy experience is our classroom are expected to know and learn in a quarter of the time that my own sons had their entire early childhood to prepare for. I'm going to end with a poem from Edgecliff. So this is my first book, and I write several poems about my MFA program and how traumatizing and insane it was. And so there are poems here about educational trauma, and if you read these poems, then you'll follow a lot of what's happening also in Maestra. So this is, dear professors, all of you fuckers. Thank you for your email stating how disappointed you are in me, and your workshop notes about how you don't see poetry in my poetry. I wrote you back requesting a meeting, and in that meeting I explained I'm a single mom, I've never studied literature, I have homeless family members living with me, that I do all my writing between 4 a.m. and 6 a.m. when my children are asleep, that I teach kindergarten all day and then commute 2 hours to you, that my son is suicidal, that I am broke, that I am a first-generation college student, that I have to talk myself out of dropping out every day, that my toxic family dynamics still affect my life, that I've had kidney infections and my hair is falling out since starting your program, that you add to my trauma when you nonchalantly talk shit about my work, which is the story of my people, of my mother, of my ancestors, of the kids that I grew up with who ended up murdered in prison or on drugs, of my perpetual grief. And that whatever the fuck I give you is an offering of my life and sacrifice. You just look at me from across the table with your stupid face and say, how would I know all that? Thank you.
Angelina Sáenz, everyone. And yeah, you find Edgecliff and Maestra at the bookstore. Thank you for your poetry and, of course, for the work you take on as an educator. And, you know, a lot of like students and educators of color that go into academia are going there knowing we're gonna be traumatized one way or another, but still continue for a generation that can have a different experience from what we had, but it continues through adult life. But thank you for speaking up too, and being critical of the system. Our next poet is also based here in Los Angeles, pero con raíces en Chihuahua, Mexico. Trans Englewood-raised, formerly undocumented immigrant Faye Hernandez is the author of the full-length poetry collection Hood Criatura. They are 23 Lambda Literary Fellow and 2022 10th House Scholar. Faye has been published in Poetry Foundation, Poets.org, Pank Magazine, Somewhere We're Human, Anthology, Trans/Media Narrative, and more. Faye is the founder of the House of Hetero, and within it, Spirit School for the Divinely Gifted, a spiritual learning space for trans and queer BIPOC spiritual practitioners. Please, round of applause for Faye.
Okay, so y'all have my heart beating so hella fast. I feel so inspired right now. And it's just phenomenal to be able to bear witness to this greatness. Very, very joyful. And I feel really huge inside. So if y'all don't already follow me, I'm gonna plug my shit first. Go to Instagram at The Hood Criatura, which is literally the title of my book. You can follow me there. I have a lot of merchandise that is tied to my first poetry collection, which is available in store today. So I created the Hood Criatura brand, essentially, because I couldn't get enough of my book. It's phenomenal. It changed my life. Hated reading and writing growing up. I was one of those students. I was undocumented in ELD classes. I had professors in college be like, your work is an example of what writing is not. And bitch, I'm sitting here, or rather standing here, kind of emulating an exceptionality, at all odds. And so I'm just really, really grateful to be in this space with y'all particularly. It feels really wholesome and full circle. And yeah, I'm going to begin by reading a poem about my younger brother, a brown man who survived until he didn't. When my son was Montezuma, Moctezuma fake sleeps his death in a morgue, his face a calcified bruised Xochitl, his warrior face a feathering head tumbling down his sun temple, a ruptured jaguar mask where my son should be. Blood tests reveal a white god anchored to his veins, a drug war inside Teotihuacan at the hour of his massacre. Moctezuma sinisterly snickers in the morgue, his face a bullet-shattered stone flower. Yeah, I confirm. Ese es mi rey. Gold grills, gold necklace, gold rings are his. That is his Quetzalcoatl tattoo slithering from his fingers to his throat. Moctezuma unbraids snake gods from his skull after a long day in the morgue. His cara, an irreparable Aztec kingdom. His ruptured jaw, a tongue offered to the cosmic spiral trying to talk about what had happened was a soft brown blur where my baby boy should be. Thank you. Before being flung on the power line. So this poem is an homage to, I think, all my intersections. I love Inglewood. I call it my country as someone who didn't have a country to claim, fully aware now of the indigenous people, the Tongva people, who existed underneath what I rep and move with, claiming my hood. Before being flung on the power line, God don't give a fuck about me. She doesn't care. My red 270 symbolized my uterus. She still hurls them onto the telephone line. When people ask me where I'm from, I say a power line shooting through a sky belly. My womb is a plastic bag stuck on the telephone line. The breeze don't change directions where I'm from, so I stay stuck. God could be my homegirl, all swaggy in hoops and a crop top, be divine mother, Batlique in a snake skirt, crescent fangs all out to impress me, but still, She don't give a fuck that my womb is a knot where my desire meets murder, and it's her fault. She doesn't care I'll cling between soil and infinite blue without a ladder tall enough to reach me. My worth amounts to the wailing dead end of trans motherhood and disappointment, and still exists, yet I am reduced to a symbol that marks the dead, a lynching purpose that doesn't ovulate, just sways. I am a crucifixion, God's divine, elaborate joke for bodies like mine, always at war with themselves, yet maybe I wouldn't have looked up if there was nothing to mourn. Maybe I wouldn't have chosen life otherwise, chosen breath otherwise. Maybe she wants people to see me with punctured windows in my hands so they can see their divinity too. See the telephone line between sky and dirt they live on too. Maybe we're all suffering mid-flight somewhere, heading to our destination, or maybe dolls deserve to look up without dying. Thank you. ¿Qué más les tengo? Hold on, I had some stuff ready for us. Oh, okay, so this poem. So this is a series of love poems that are just like, you know, rachetones, because a bitch is mad. And this is my politic too, which is what I'm about to expose, right? The title of the, let me give you context. So I'm from Chihuahua, Mexico, but my descendants are the Raramuri, Pima, and Cora peoples. And so I'm also formally undocumented. And so then I'm playing all these identity politics in the US, and it's ridiculous because I'm like, bitch, I'm just from the lands where I'm from. Like, I know what's up with me. Like, it's just everyone's so like addicted to like naming ourselves, which is fine because of our displacement. But I'm like, if you can't love me how I'm supposed to be, cue Omar Apollo's evergreen at the end of this poem. The man I love is Mexican American. Reps Southgate, Plaza Mexico, Placita Olvera, Las Parrilladas from Glorias, Tequila Curado and Banda. Reps Mexico in Spanish. I say fuck Mexico. He says I'm disrespecting where both our parents were born. Okay. I say stank face, shrug, cackle, and kick my boots up on his dashboard. He gets offended as if he wasn't documented and drenched in first-generation privilege. Lets go of my hand while he's driving, as if I'm despicable and should be deported. Grips the steering wheel's neck. His Mexican pride is toxic. Smacks my legs down into submission. Fumes what only a child of immigrants can. I shrug. Stank face and cackle again. He presses the gas harder, this time glides on the 105. He is trying to murder me. Before his parents find out, he's dating a trans woman like me, who by nightfall will still be a woman, but who will not be held treated like one, but switch-bladed like a man. This is a love poem. So he undresses me with his flared glare, and by undress, I mean slice me with his knife for being such a self-hating Mexican, strips me apart figuratively in the passenger seat. All my sliced parts he throws into trash bags because I'm despicable times two, a wicked seductress messing him up. We don't make up fuck, just go body, while he claims my Inglewood is not a hood. Points to the beautification projects on Century, Prairie, La Brea. Mansplains gentrification like an academic. Bitch, I live it. He buries me in the potholes along the way. Says I am a self-hating Mexican again because I don't like tortillas, and I laugh a full laugh because bitch, I can't do carbs like that. But it don't matter. Clearly, we're not strangling each other because of Inglewood or Southgate or who's more hood or who's more Mexican. My rats about how so many Mexican Americans like him don't know who they are beneath nationality. So they claim colonizers' sweetbread, una conchita, to amount to something, who default to their parents' experience of being undocumented immigrants and call themselves illegal by default. But they got safety in their papeles. So I keep going on about how Mexican Americans play innocent when questioned about their race, how they hide in the generalized Mexican or Latina because it's easier than to be hyphenated or non-indigenous or part of the problem than to confront their history of stealing our experiences as undocumented people for clout. Bitch, we don't need y'all to talk for us. We right here. He says I'm policing him. which is hypocritical because I'm always talking about how shady folks who police are. All of a sudden, he's an abolitionist. But he doesn't see how violent it is to let me repeat myself, take buzzwords and a desire to belong so bad, he's willing to bend oppression to himself. Walks around inferring being undocumented with a hood limb because, bitch, I was poor too. An alien because, my parents were illegal. And he had to translate for them. But illegal by proximity is not illegal, boo. I say. For undocumented people, it's not just an emotional, internal struggle of ni de aquí ni de allá, bitch, we don't care. This is all simple identity politics that make for sensational Mexican poetry. We are more than tamales, boo. We trying to live unbound and feel free amidst it all, but we don't actually argue about any of this. What we're actually bickering about is not being able to come at the same time. Or the way he has a walk-in closet, has mad space for all his hoodies and caps, but not enough space to ask me out, even if we keep it low-key. He shoves me off when I say, yeah, let's stop fighting. And I lean in to kiss him. But we devolve to our origin story when he pushes him away, when he pushes me away. Him, a man incapable of loving a woman like me, but wanting me around all the time, so he stays. We are breaking up even though we were never together. Rebukes every cuddle, every handhold, every moment between us, plays God like so many Mexican men, erases our legacy like a fucking colonizer, wants to cry through it all, but he can't manage to hold his breath, so he pumps his anger through the veins on his forehead, tells me he's really going to kill me now. Says he can't politics with me, feels robbed by me, disappointed, he says, refuses to let me take his suffering as a Mexican American away, because he suffered too. I can't be the Mexican you're trying to make me be. And I said, wake the fuck up. This is real fucking life. And when he turns around and walks towards his car, tears streaming down his face, because he does love me real hard, he says, all right, I'm out for good this time. Uses his final weapon to murder me again, says adios, uses my legal name, my dead name. Syllables fumble out like ICE officers running towards me to put me in handcuffs and deport me away from him for good. I yell something like, don't come for my motherfucking hood. Stay off my motherfucking streets, but I'm lying again. I just froze right under the blue spotlight of a street light, crying, thinking about how stupid I was to have given him my name, my citizenship. The citizenship to my car, however corny that sounds. And in that moment, my voice tries to resist silence, tries to utter something like, don't come for my heart no more then, homie. Boy, fucking bye if you can't love me how I'm supposed to be. Thank you. And this next piece is an homage to my first love. His name's Eddie. We grew up together. This was my homie. I was a little emo kid trying to be hood, and I looked funny because I'm like, I got like a pink sweater and shit, and like got the swoop going on, and we're just graffitiing up the streets up and down. But he's an exceptional person. I still see him from time to time. He does his taxes at my mom's office. He showed up the other day, and it's like, we were just chatting like we were kids again. And, I'm trans and I'm going through all these transformations. He's still the same, right? But there's this love, this deep love. And to top it off, just to give him his little cherry on top moment is, his whole family's undocumented. He's an exceptional ally. He is what I look for in people and in community who know how to be there for people who obviously don't have the same luxuries. This one's titled Eddie's Determination with Light. Eddie belongs to the scar on his temple, the sheer pearl of its light, born from the unraveled chain link fence he fell into at 7. He belongs to the woman who flock like pigeons to heal him, that kiss his lightning after he braves his tails and then breaks their hearts soon after. Eddie belongs to Spruce and Walnut Street, belongs to the red-eyed boys on his block who wear long shorts, knee-high socks, and slides, who buy anything he's selling to be lit. Eddie belongs to things of radiance, street handshakes, silver chains, pierced eyebrows, red and blue cop lights, head nods, running, and cuetas. Eddie's a vago with a big heart and a mission, has a way of drawing negative attention to him, but always away from those in hiding. Eddie tells me he can't love me the same way I love him, because he, belongs to his brother, an undocumented Aztec warrior, zigzagging Inglewood, wide-eyed, on drugs, trying to pedal as fast as he can away from the darkness that follows him, doesn't let him get home to tuck his sick daughter into bed. I never understood how love could be measured in light until now. We are adults, and Eddie still slithers jokes through his crooked teeth, cracks everyone's darkness, surrounds everyone in unwavering light. But his brother and I, we're still afraid of too much light sometimes. This ain't a judgment. It is Eddie's determination with light, the way he bends it, twists it for more, points it to those who deserve it, how he will force himself to smile through the blood streaking down his face after falling into another open chain link fence to make it easier for his undocumented family, lighter, for those he loves who are still in shadows. In other words, here is a child of undocumented immigrants, a light manipulator, bringing light where light should never have existed. How full and selfless his reservoir of illumination. When he said he couldn't love me, what he meant was, yo, my family needs my light right now and I can't share it no more, even though I know you need it too. The pigeon woman in my sheets, yo, they're easy. And I have to do my best to not be Inglewood's Eddie, you know, get all wrapped up with the cops and all that, anything but that. What he meant was, I have to point my flashlight into my brother's eyes to make sure he's still breathing. What he meant was, I have to shatter my love for you, fat boy, to let the light break out of me so my family doesn't have to pay the light bill. Thank you. And I probably have time for one more real quick. ¿Qué les leo? My heart. This shit is hard, man. Yeah. Fuck, my little corazón. And this one for Black History Month. Shout out to Miss Flowers. Miss Flowers, her fullest smile, welcomed me to my first kindergarten class in Inglewood. She pushed the language not of her own through the keys of her spine to give me a country. A Black woman showed me how to free a song by shaking pain through play and arranging block letters, call them mine, make something gorgeous out of the unspoken dread. She knew I came from a family who didn't know English or how to own something like my hands, my voice box, and citizenship. She knelt down, placed her hand on my shoulder. Her cocoa-buttered hand held my ashy brown hand as I wept for my family. She said, "This is your new home," and pointed to her heart, pointed to my heart. Miss Flowers said, "You and your family don't have to fear the darkness. Look at all this light." But I'm lying. All she did was shine her eyes into mine, who reflected she too longed for a mother you cannot return to, a native land too far to kiss in the face. She held me longer, said, "Don't worry, baby. They can't take you from here." And so I stayed. But Miss Flowers didn't just ease my suffering. Abuelita's angst radiated from her eyes during drop-off. Miss Flowers knew Abuelita desired nothing more than to squeeze herself inside the classroom, wipe my tears, snatch my little boy body, abort our American assimilation, and deport our dream back to the ancient country before anyone else could. Miss Flowers erased the fear that possessed fearful immigrants. She shook her head softly at my abuelita, hands at her heart, and said, "Aquí nadie nos hará daño." She gave abuelita the license to unfurl her grip, breathe in a new beginning that no one asked for. Upon our goodbye, abuelita surrendered me to this new country made of community and not land stewardship or ownership, a new family in arms, who know displacement too, who know a legacy of undocumented resilience, who make it no matter the obstacle because we have one another. Miss Flowers knew we couldn't go back, just like she could never go back. She knew we were one and the same, although not the same. Miss Flowers walked me into the ring of immigrant children for our first lesson, made space for my undocumented world and theirs. Although the song we learned was in a language I didn't know, I knew I had to follow the melody from her lips, because one day I'd understand what it means to be free. Thank you.
Hernandez, gracias. Such an intense journey that you take us with all your poems, and so beautiful. The long poem you read really just makes me think of, like, sometimes Mexican nationalism it's a thing, and it's toxic, and these are, like, very difficult conversations to have with family members and even loved ones. But I just really appreciate that poem and what it explores in it, and looking forward to your next compilation of poems. Is it in the works?
Oh yeah, 2025 with Naomi Press.
All right, we got the exclusive. All right, our final poet of the evening, closing out tonight, is the one and only Ire'ne Lara Silva. All right. 2023 Texas State Poet Laureate. I know, yeah, give it up. Author of 5 poetry collections: Furia, Blood Sugar Canto, Cuicacali, House of Song, Verse Poems, and most recently Eaters of Flowers. Also, she's written 2 chapbooks, Enduring Azúcares and Hibiscus Tacos, and a short story collection, Flesh to Bone, which won the Premio Aztlán. Ire'ne is the recipient of a 2021 Tasajillo Writers Grant, the 2021 Texas Institute of Letters Shrake Award for Best Short Nonfiction, 2017 NALAG Fund for the Arts Grant, and the final Alfredo Cisneros del Moral Award, and also was the fiction finalist for Araujo's 2013 Gift of Freedom Award. Currently a writer at large for Texas Highways magazine, Ire'ne is working on a second collection of short stories titled The Light of Your Body. Her first comic book, Vendaval, will be released by the Chispa imprint of Scout Comics in April 2024. Bienvenida, Ire'ne Lara Silva.
So thank you, all of you, for being here. Thank you, Ivan and Jimmy, for the invitation. Gracias to Beyond Baroque for hosting us. Like Faye, my heart is so full right now. I think I usually end a reading crying. I don't usually start them crying. But that's the kind of evening that this is turning into. So I do want to dedicate this reading to my loves that I read, that I'm reading with tonight. Because anytime I might even slightly forget why we do poetry and why we meet in community and why we put the effort in that we put in, a night like this reminds me why. So I woke up this morning and I got into this conversation that I don't think you should go into conversations like this before coffee, before breakfast, before protein of any kind. And it was about how we shift our consciousness. And what I've been thinking about all day is how freedom and healing relate to each other. What inspires you to heal other than a desire to be free? But don't you have to be free to want to heal? And how can you do both of those things in tandem to get you to a point where you are then both healthy enough and free enough to shift how you live in this world and to shift the way the world is? So that was heavy stuff for breakfast this morning, before I even got my beloved cornflakes. So I want to start with the last poem in Blood Sugar Canto, which is a book about chronic illness and diabetes and mortality and conquering fear. I want to start with the last poem because a lot of healing for me and a lot of why poetry is important has to do with its relation to song. And sadly, in this culture, we usually see song as something to consume, something that is popular, and we have lost our ancestral ways of living in song. So a poem for that. There will be singing in the morning and singing in the night. Singing in the days of want and singing in the days of plenty. Singing alone and singing with ghosts, singing old songs and singing new songs. We will remember songs we haven't heard yet, songs that haven't been dreamt yet. Songs no one has found the words for, songs sung on the road and songs sung in bed, songs sung while weeping and songs sung while waiting, songs for breath and sun and light and moon and earth and water, songs for sustenance. We will sing impossible songs, indecipherable songs, songs that cannot be heard and songs that cannot be shared. We will sing songs without words, silent songs and screaming songs, songs that tremble and songs we can embrace. Song and I live in each other's skins. Song and I breathe each other's breath, take refuge in each other, passing silver firelight between each other's lips. Naming and unnaming, freeing ourselves, taking wing, song and I spiraling in the sky. I would like to die singing. Let there be song in my throat spilling out. Let my last breath be song. I wrote a poem in this other collection, which is more consideration of identity and indigeneity. And I almost never read it because I like to read all the angry poems and the sad poems and everything else, but I almost never sing this poem. But considering that, like I said, all day long I've been thinking about healing and freedom. So y'all know what axolotls are, right? Yes? Little creatures, amphibians from Mexico. They are known for their remarkable healing powers. They will regrow limbs. They will regrow brain tissue. So axolotl. Also, they always look like they're smiling. Axolotl. Little warrior, almost imperceptibly scarred from so much healing. How many regrown limbs, how many repaired organs, even precious brain tissue created anew. Teach me this, little warrior, how you remain tender and infinite, soft and eternal in the face of struggle. How it is the healing has already begun, even before the wound. Okay, I will give in and read a sad poem. So this poem started because I was on a road trip with friends. And you know, you get into all these really random conversations on the road. And we started talking about first loves. And so I talked about mine at 17, and my friend Natalia talked about hers at 17. And her husband, who was driving, suddenly, very seriously said, my first love was when I was 7. And we laughed at him. And he's like, no, I'm serious. I love this girl. I was going to marry her. We were going to have 2 dogs and a cat and 3 babies and blah, 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 blah. And we're laughing at him, and we laughed at him at the reading, and we laughed at him at dinner. And we probably laughed afterwards also. But they dropped me off at my place at like 2 a.m, and I had a grant application due the next day. I did not do the grant application. I wrote this poem. And then I sent it to them, and I said, it's your fault. I still turned in the grant application, but anyway, here's the poem. What I remembered yesterday. At 6, I was the loner kid, the migrant kid following harvest seasons in Texas, Oklahoma, New Mexico. We moved every few months, changing schools, changing homes. I was the poor kid, the dark brown kid, the only girl with short hair and pants. I was the quiet kid who stared at clouds and blades of grass, who walked the perimeter of the schoolyard as if plotting escape, a child in pain with no words for that pain. Ileana was one of the pretty girls, the girls who would grow up to become cheerleaders. Ileana with the pretty gold skin, only slightly lighter than her light brown hair. Ileana with eyes blacker than mine. I don't know what she did or said, but one day the cheerleaders-to-be sent her sprawling into the dirt and turned away. I don't remember if I helped her, or if finding herself alone, she sought me out. But from one moment to another, I went from alone to not alone. Impossible that we had ever been apart. Little soulmate, mirror reflection, inseparable. We had one shadow. We spent every second of our exile breathing the same air, staring at the same clouds, holding the same wildflowers. She held my hand. I loved her with all the passion of my 6-year-old heart. That should be funny, but it isn't, because the passion of my 6-year-old heart was not the passion of my 17-year-old heart, or my 21-year-old heart, or my heart at any other point. At 6, a heart is infinite, devoid of want, devoid of selfishness, devoid of games, devoid of possession, devoid of armor. At 6, a heart is infinite. I don't remember time. Was it weeks, months? I only remember I had no warning. One day to the next, her exile ended. The cheerleaders-to-be took her back. I waited for her, but she never returned to our meeting place. I watched to see if she'd turn and catch my eye and smile her quiet smile, but she never did. Almost 40 years later, I wonder, did it begin then? This lifelong love of heartbreak songs, betrayal songs, abandonment songs, unrequited songs. My 6-year-old voice didn't know the songs I would learn later. Maybe I was 15 or 16 or 17 when that song found me. The song I didn't know would follow me always. The song I know no matter how many years pass without singing it. The song I've known late, early, tired, drunk, sober, heart silent and heart peeling. Probablemente ya de mí te has olvidado y mientras tanto yo te seguiré esperando. Yesterday, I remembered the 6-year-old me and my 6-year-old heart, and I remembered what I'd forgotten. The 6-year-old lives in me still, the 6-year-old in me that waits and waits and is still waiting. So this next poem I love reading because it was inspired by a poet I can't stand. And most of this book is, so this one just came out last month. And I wrote it in a very short period of time, basically in 2 months. I finished it at the 6-month anniversary of my brother's passing. I had been his sole caregiver for 19 years. And he died at age 40 as a diabetic amputee. But he died at home, and I was the one taking care of him. It left a huge hole in my life, and I had to figure out not just my grief, not just the loss, but how to live without him. And so that's what most of this book is about. And part of what happened during that time is that every now and then I think I should read something because I think I need to have an opinion on it. So I force myself to read things I don't like. And this poet in particular, I cannot stand, and I cannot say their name, but I hate them, and I hate their work. And I was reading the work, and I was thinking, why do I hate this so much? And a while back, I realized that I read to locate medicine. And if there's no medicine in it, then there's nothing for me there. And what happened with this particular poet is that I came to that realization on page 33, and I kept on reading because I'm stubborn that way. And I turned the page. The poem on the next page, right in the middle, the poet actually wrote, I don't know how to make medicine. And I said, see, even she knows that I'm not gonna like her work. But that inspired. I can give that away because it's in the title. It's in the title, so I can give that away. All right, so this is called, She Said She Didn't Know How to Make Medicine. So far, nobody's figured out who it is, but anyway. Look through every single poetry book on page 35 or 36. She said she didn't know how to make medicine, but I do. I know how to make medicine. What else was I given life for? I have been watching and learning, whispering and praying, breathing and weeping, living and living and living, and breaking my skin and breaking my eyes and breaking my heart and breaking my thoughts, grinding down the fragments in a molcajete made of what survives when a star explodes. So many drops of my blood in this, so many drops of my bile, so many drops of my tears. This is what no one tells you, that there is medicine you can make of yourself. No green leaves, no blossoms. We are in the place where there are no recipes, no instructions, but where you must walk gently on the earth and clear your eyes and do no harm and break none of the laws of medicine. Do you see? It's taken everything I am and every second of what I've lived to even begin to learn. My heart has died, and my heart has died, and my heart has died, and I keep breathing. Medicine lives under my skin and in my eyes and in my tongue and in my breath. I know how to make medicine. I speak medicine. I walk medicine. I am becoming, I am making myself medicine. And I'm going to finish with this last one. That is what I call the heart poem of everything. Every book has a heart poem, and it's the center of it, it's the core of it, but it's also usually the hardest one to write. But once I write it, I know I can write the rest of the book. This is for my brother. I know they mean well when they say my brother is still with me, but I hope he isn't. In his last days, he was forgetting where he was and my name and his own name. He was forgetting all of it, and he knew only enough to trust my voice and my hand holding his hand, and that he wasn't alone, and that I would take care of anything he needed. I hope he's walked on to the next world without any memory of this one. Hope he's forgotten all the pain, all the anger. I hope he's forgotten his childhood and my father. Forgotten bullies and homophobes, forgotten bruises and broken hearts, forgotten despair and hurt. I hope he's forgotten doctors and painkillers and surgeries and hospitals and wounds and pain. Oh, I hope he's forgotten pain. Even if it means he's forgotten me. Even if our difficult years and our beautiful years live only in my heart. Even if he doesn't remember all our adventures, all our tears, all our laughter. Even if he doesn't remember our years of colors and words and music and flowers, because even when he didn't know my name, he still smiled at me and looked so kindly upon me. And I couldn't have prayed for anything more at his peaceful moment of passing. I hope he remembers nothing. Even if it means I send all this love that still lives in me out in no particular direction. In the first rain afterwards, I saw him in the white rain lilies sprouting roadside. Saw him in the greening of the revived blades of grass. Saw him when the leaves started to change color. And I saw him when the crimson crown of thorns started blooming. May his spirit be racing in delight from one streak of lightning to another. May it be curled in comfort in the petals of roses and peonies. May it be watching in wide-eyed delight as the dew forms each morning. May his spirit be drifting in the soft clouds overhead. May it be visiting the snow-covered chollas, blooming a soft yellow. May his spirit be running with the howling of the coyotes I heard tonight and last night and the night before. Gracias.
Round of applause for all our poetas tonight. Thank you, ire'ne, Jen, Faye, Angelina. Just want to echo the line of Jen's poem, Blessed be the mouth. You will find medicina in all of the poets' books, guarantee that. So hope you find that. And yeah, just thank you everybody for coming out tonight. There's thousands of places you could have been tonight, but chose to be here. And thank you all for it, and for our poetas for pouring your corazones with us. Thank you. So please hang out. We're still around, and get your books. Thank you.